Do I need to do this? Do I need to make a blueprint, right? A plan, little by little to get there. Like, it ain't gonna all happen overnight.
The best way I put it is, I would rather not be liked for my authentic self than not be liked for trying to be the person you think.
Sometimes the stuff that sucks, you gotta run straight into.
You just gotta go to it.
Like, just right into.
If you stop differentiating, you die.
I want them to be able to support themselves, support their family. I want them to be great human beings at the end of the day.
I want to be able to say, like, okay, this is my legacy. I helped make a difference in this young man's life.
If you're poor, you don't have to stay poor.
Right.
So, Derek Lyons, your host of the Blueprint Banner podcast, and with me today is Jeff Woody. I believe in my 10 minutes of research that I did on Jeff before this podcast, before he got here, probably most famously known for being a walk-on at Iowa State and then scoring the game-winning touchdown against Oklahoma State, which was ranked number 2.
Correct.
In 2011 or 12?
11.
2011. I just saw the highlight actually for the first time, and big boy got the ball and just put it in the end zone, huh?
That was, I always describe it as it's the most fun, life-threatening mob I've ever been a part of, because you have 45,000 people that want to touch you at the same time. So, like, when the cool part is when you watch that, I honestly think my health, I don't think I would have died, but like my health was drastically saved by one of my offensive linemen just picked me up as soon as I was in the end zone. I think it was Hayworth Hicks, but he picked me up, and then like 8 seconds later, it's just a crush of a crowd, just, and I will say this on any podcast that I'm on. If you know where that the ball that I scored with was auctioned off on some charity fundraiser and somebody bought it. If anybody knows where that ball is, I will buy it from you. Like, yeah. I want that ball back. But I scored, got picked up, and then there was an equipment guy, and I forget his name, but he's a super nice guy, and he was like, I need that ball, like, because he's just doing his job to get the ball back because on those, guys will leave without helmets because they get stolen. You leave without cleats, without gloves. So like, if it's not on your body,
yeah,
there's a chance that shit can get stolen. So he's like, I need this ball. So if you are listening and you know where that game-winning ball is, I saw it one time at an A&W in Indianola because I think the owners of that franchise were the ones that bought it, but I don't think it's still there. So if you know where that is,
yeah, we need to find Jeff that football.
I want that ball.
I mean, what a moment, huh?
Oh, yeah.
So when I was listening to that clip, like the broadcast is like, Jeff Woody, 235 pounds or whatever you were, right? Like, were you the goal line back? Is that like, was that kind of your role?
So my role, it's actually kind of like, it runs fairly parallel to the story of how I got there, which is, so you mentioned walk-on. So I played football at Southeast Polk and then got no offers, no Division I offers anywhere. I got 0% to UNI, which they can break up scholarships. I think they have 50 or 45 scholarships they can give. They didn't even give me books. They gave me 0%.
They were just running back heavy at the time?
Nope.
Just didn't like you, huh?
Not a fan of that staff. So
fair.
Didn't get anything from even UNI. The scholarships that I had 100% scholarship to Nebraska Omaha, which doesn't have a football program anymore. I got like 70% to Northwest Missouri State, but I always felt like I was good enough to play at Division I level. And my brother was already going to Iowa State, and I felt like I could fit in there. And when I was playing, I was kind of get the ball 35 times. Like, for those of you that are Hawkeye fans, picture Mark Wiseman. Like, that was what my role was when I was playing in high school. Well, Iowa State ran a spread, and so I had to adapt what I was doing to get to that. And I grew up a Hawkeye fan. I wanted to go to Iowa, but they signed Brandon Weger and Adam Robinson the previous 2 seasons, which they were highly rated recruits, really talented dudes. They had Mark Wiseman already there. Like, he was their fullback. So they didn't have any space for me. And so I went to go to Iowa State, and I had to adapt my role, what I did, to be a spread player. So my role then became short yardage, goal line, really anything that involved blocking, like from the running back position, anything that involved blocking or, hey, we need to hit someone very hard from from anywhere in the backfield. Jeff, come on.
Get ahead of steam.
You're bigger than most people. Go hit somebody. And so it was that. And so when you're in that role, well, also as a walk-on, you always feel like you're one mistake away from just getting yanked. Versus if you're a scholarship guy, if you're given the privilege of expectations, the great part about expectations is that if you don't meet them, they're still there in the first place. And so as a walk-on, I I didn't feel like they had any expectations of me. And so I'm playing with house money the entire time, but you're one bet away, to use that metaphor a little bit further, you're one bet away when you're betting with house money from just being out of the table. So I always felt like if I'm given the opportunity to be in the game, I will not fumble. I will not miss a cut. I will not miss an assignment. I will be 100% assignment sound every time. Am I going to rip off a 75-yard run? Probably not. Am I going to juke somebody their shoes? Maybe. But my job is going to be do exactly what you need me to do as well as I can do it without taking too much risk.
Play within the system.
Play within the system.
Yeah.
And once you get past that, like in football at running back, once you get beyond 5 yards, like downfield, then at that point it's just, you're in the back. I mean, it's your backyard. You're playing flag football. It doesn't matter. But up until that 5 yards, I'm doing exactly what I need to. So my role was, like I said, anything that involves blocking, anything that involves hitting somebody very hard, which is short yardage, and then goal line stuff. So for that Oklahoma State game, we had just gotten an interception, and how overtime rules work is they have a chance to score, and if they score, you have a chance to score the same amount or more, and if you score more than them, you win. If you score the same amount, you go to another overtime. If you score less than them, game's over. And so we had got an interception, which meant they scored 0 points. All we had to do is score any points. And 3 points, 7 points, doesn't matter.
It's first and goal when you got the ball.
It was first and you get the ball at the 25. And so they put me in because at that point, the only thing we needed to do is not fumble. If you advance the ball at all, cool, it makes the field goal easier. But all you're trying to do in that moment is possess the ball. So if my role was do everything right, don't mess up an assignment, be 100% assignment sound, protect the ball, who's going to go in on that? Me. And so I got that opportunity because I felt like I didn't have any room for error always. So I was going to outwork everybody.
I like that mentality of it.
I was going to, if you give me a chance, the worst I'm going to do is what you expect me to do. The best I'm going to do is blow your mind. Like that's the kind of attitude that I always took, because I'm never going to get a shot and be unprepared for that shot. So it was.
Well, I mean, the reality is, I mean, how many other kids want that same opportunity, right? And I mean, if you just get put in there and squander it, I mean, you can't afford to not be ready. I mean, I suppose, you kind of got to carry that. I would imagine. Yeah,
it is one of those things that like you can do enough work. Like people will say that a lot of it's luck, and sometimes it is where somebody you get put into a situation like you're a corner or you're a defensive player to continue using football, and obviously this expands past football to life or whatever. But you're a defensive back, you're accidentally in the wrong spot. Somebody does a good thing, pops the ball up in the air, and you just catch it. Like, oh, cool, I got lucky. But most situations are, if you get put in there, if you don't know what you're doing, if you haven't taken the reps when someone else is doing it and paid attention to what they're doing and learned from them, when you get in there and you screw it up, that one chance that you got does not become two. And so you have to have enough wherewithal to go, well, not getting what I want, but at some point I might, and I just got to be ready for when I do.
I mean, in 2018, I just was the first time that I'd ever heard in a business like analogy setting was, being lucky is just when preparation and opportunity meet. And I thought that was really interesting because, I mean, even myself growing up or when you saw, there's a lot of people that you could easily always argue like, oh, they were just lucky, or they happened to time things right, or it's like, I mean, I think you can always take that stance of like, I mean, people could just consider me lucky for starting Showtime like 7 days before the derecho of 2020 happened, and it's like, yeah, but just because the derecho happened didn't mean that all of a sudden people were just calling Derek Lyons. Like nobody knew who the hell we even were, so like, I mean, obviously you had to go to work, and there's just so many opportunities like that you can use that as an example of like being prepared and ready for this scenario when the time comes and making the most of it.
Yeah. And I think another thing that I think sports does a really good job of teaching, and it carries over to a lot of different things, business, life, whatever, is the need to understand that everyone else is in the same position that you are. So like I use with whether it's, I don't know, this is more of an outside life or outside the lines life thing is, no one knows what they're doing. No one, absolutely no one in any situation. A surgeon doing surgery on your knee doesn't know exactly what's happening.
Like there's a level of
There's a level
figure it out.
that I got to figure it out. Everybody is. And so like as a parent, like a lot of parenting that people get stressed with is that they feel like they should have answers that they don't have. Well, congratulations. Welcome to the planet. Like no one knows what they're doing fully. Your goal is to know as much of it as you can, but no one knows what you're doing. Nobody. They've never seen, even if you've done that back to that doctor analogy, even if you've done that surgery 1,000 times, someone's knee is going to be slightly different than someone else's knee. The situation that you're in, you might have not been able to sleep last night because you were on call and then you were a little bit tired and now or you had a disagreement with your kid and all this stuff. Nothing happens exactly the same way. So one of the things with sports is that like when you get that opportunity, you prepared yourself to get that opportunity. And if you go out there and go, oh shit, everyone's bigger and faster and stronger than me. Oh, or you go, you don't know what you're doing just as much as I don't know what I'm doing. And it makes it so much less nerve-wracking in every situation to think that like from everyone from the president of the United States to someone who doesn't have a job and is just trying to figure out where they want to work, same amount.
Well,
figuring it out.
I think it's easy for people to sort of just have this weird assumption, and I don't know when it starts. I mean, my first time like really figuring that part out, figuring out that everybody has to figure it out, was when I was like, 29, and when starting Showtime, and you start mingling and interacting with these other business owners and whatever, and obviously my world being the trades world, but to your point, it's every industry. Is nobody, to your point, nobody had it figured out. And there is no script. There is no textbook that just says this is how you do it. And I think that a lot of people sort of put these folks up on a pedestal that maybe they seek to be like, or if somebody else is successful doing something that they want to get into, it's like, oh, they have all the answers. And it's like, no, they don't.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And the more you climb up that ladder, the more you get into these different rooms, the more you realize, same position. And when you don't have that almost nervous curiosity as to how to do it better, and you stop having that nervous curiosity, you become complacent. And once you become complacent, you get past. So like the industry that I would say that correlates a lot to that. So you mentioned I do a podcast. That's one of the things I do. So I do Drake's ESPN Plus broadcast for do color commentary for ESPN Plus broadcast for Drake. I'll do some high school games. I'll do podcasts. I'll do stuff for Cycle and Fanatic, whether it's writing or whatever. One of my goals in doing that is getting on a national or regional broadcast like Fox Sports or ESPN or whatever. And that is a super hard job to get because there are 3 gatekeepers. There is the Fox Sports talent guy, the ESPN Sports talent guy, the CBS Sports talent guy, and that's pretty much it. And they have to have a job, and you have to be good enough when they have a job opening that you have to be good enough and on their mind in order for them to hire it. So that might happen 2 months from now, it might happen 10 years from now. But when you think about like in the broadcasting world, do you watch Thursday Night Football ever?
Yeah, it's Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit.
And so Al Michaels is one of the greatest broadcasters of all time.
I would argue that his time maybe is a little bit past
right,
it.
Because I imagine he's done and seen everything that a broadcaster can see, and now he doesn't have that. I would say he doesn't have that same kind of like nervous curiosity to make something better. And then you flip that over, like my favorite broadcasters are Jason Benetti and Brock Heward. They're Fox's number 2. So whatever Big Noon Kickoff is, the next biggest game on Fox's network is Benetti and Heward. And Jason Benetti also does the Detroit Tigers baseball. You can tell that those guys care. And they always are constantly trying to learn new stuff and like figure out what the newest thing is. Well, new inherently implies something that's never been done before. So you don't know what it is. Like you don't know how that works. And so back to your shows at home things, you don't know how building this particular roof or getting this client, or how do I market this? How do I do a podcast? Like everything's new.
I mean, I like to golf, and I would say that golf is like almost the hyperbole, like the commentary of golf now is almost like the hyperbole of what you're talking about, because these guys will sit in the booth and like Bryson DeChambeau, which I mean, are you familiar with? I mean, I know you're a hell of a stick, but you can hit the hell out of the ball. But I mean, do you follow much pro golf?
I a lot. I don't do anything. I don't follow Live much,
but yeah. So anyway, though, I mean, like Bryson, for instance, will get up and like, oh man, big and strong, and they continue to talk about like the fact that golfers are now like physically fit and strong humans and athletes, like as if it's still like new age stuff, and it's like, guys, Tiger's been doing this since the
1997.
Yeah. And when he really started taking like physical form was probably early 2000s. And there's old stories about him working out with like Navy SEALs and different things, but which was maybe a hair extreme. However, he wanted to do it and push himself. But I just think it's funny when they talk about like the fact that like, yeah, golfers lift weights too now, guys.
You ever seen Rory McIlroy hit a ball?
Exactly. So I mean, to your point, like I think in the golf world specifically, there could be a hell of an opening there too for some different just perspective in general, you know?
Yeah, it's funny because anything with the broadcasting world is fun. Just it's weird because
why is that your thing that you want to like? What about that is like your deal?
So as a broadcaster, like what this is right now is it's taking what's in your head and getting it in someone else's brain in some way, and not to try and like influence them, but it's having a conversation with more than one person at a time. We're having a conversation right now, but like the camera is a third person in the room, and what every single person likes. So this is a business phrase that Jack Whitver, because we bought our business from Jack. And what Whitver told me in the training back when I was an intern in 2011 was, and it's a John Wooden quote, which is everyone's favorite word is their own name and everyone's favorite conversation is about themselves. And the more you can apply that, the better off you're going to be. Well, what's my thing that I really like? I just love watching football. In order to get on the field, I had to know everything because I wasn't like, I was fast. I would beat linebackers in sprints, but I wouldn't beat other running backs. I was the slowest running back, fast linebacker, slow running back. And so in order to be at the same, I couldn't waste a step. So I had to be smarter than everybody. So I had to know exactly what was happening at every position, everywhere. And so that was a thing that I just knew really well. So that's a part of me that I really like. That's also a thing that people have an interest in. And so I've started to make a little bit of a career of this. It's more of a side gig than anything, but I make a career of this because I have that head knowledge that other people like. Now, whenever you get to have a conversation and when you can hold court, which you and I probably have a similar capacity for doing this, you're at a cocktail party and you just have a conversation, just can tell an entertaining story. Now, imagine that entertaining story is something that person has a huge interest in. That feeling of just being able to like, you want more information from me that I have. That is super fun. And I was a professor at DMAC for a very brief time, an adjunct professor in biology. And teaching is really fun. And so when you put the fact of teaching something that's in your head to somebody, to something that you're really passionate about, to a thing that other people are passionate about, no one in this chain is unhappy or frustrated, even if their game isn't going as well as they want. Like you get mean tweets or mean comments like, "Hey, you jackass! His name is pronounced Svensson and not Svensson." It's like, okay, fine, whatever. But usually, like it's an arena that it's super fun to operate in, and people care about it, and I really like it. And so, if you can make a career out of that,
yeah, I like that answer.
Like it's fun.
I mean, that was one of my favorite things about when Romo started was he had like his perspective. Because I mean, obviously, you know, you have like I'm Joe Buck, and with me is the Hall of Famer Troy Aikman, and you know, like it's like, and I still like listening to those guys. I know they catch a lot of hate. I like listening to those guys, but it's sort of ran its course, I would say. I mean, just because they've been around for so long. But Romo's was a little bit more of a fresh take where he would actually pre-snap start, you know, I mean, at times like straight up predicting plays, but pre-snap was telling you what he was seeing. And we hadn't really had that much in the NFL prior to that, I didn't think, you know. And so to your point, I mean, you know, if there's a certain formation or the way they're lined up or maybe what the defense is kind of giving them for a look, there's probably a good chance that you have an idea which way they want to go with that ball.
And if they don't, then you can say like, here's what they could have done. And I think the bigger thing that a lot of fans miss generally, and I'll bring this back to your business world. So like we were talking about this back here, like this set, which is real wood. Like it's not a faux set. This thing is legit. After having done enough woodworking, I can process the fact that this thing took a long time to do.
Right.
Like it's really well done. Like it's routed on the corners,
Yeah.
it's stained, it's cut, it's really exact. Like that's nice. Well, because I've done that before, I feel fairly experienced as a woodworker that I can understand that. But if someone walked in and saw it, like that looks cool, but they have no idea,
No appreciation.
how hard that is.
Right.
And so one of the things that as a broadcaster and just fans generally don't really get is how fast everything happens, how hard every decision is, and how thin the line is between good and bad. And so a lot of times what my goal, even if I think what's going to happen ahead of time, like, so if I'm calling a Drake game, like they just played Morehead State, they lost. So this dates that podcast or whenever that game was. But they just lost. If they're in a game situation something that based on what game film says, what their history says, what the statistics in the game flow are, what I think should happen, and it doesn't happen, then it's my job to explain why that didn't happen. And so a lot of this is like, people are, throw it to the tight end, he's wide open. It's like, whoa, yes, that would be a good idea. But here's the deal.
Armchair quarterback.
That's not how that works. That's not how that can happen. And here's why this can't happen. And here's why this was a good player. Here's why this is a bad player. Here's why they got lucky. And like another golf example is like a lot of in order to get better at golf. So I shot 80 for the first time, like
Hell yeah.
a couple weeks ago. Super pumped.
Nice.
And the difference between me shooting 87 and shooting an 80 was just doing less dumb stuff. And when you do less dumb stuff in golf, it makes your life way easier. Hitting out of the fairway is a lot easier than hitting out from behind a tree. So what do I do to get in the fairway? Well, professional golfers do that, but just at a higher level. Their margins are smaller, but they're still preparing for the bad shot. They're not preparing for the good shot. So you think of some amazing shots. I think it's like Tiger Woods with a 2-iron. I don't remember. It was like maybe it may have been that it was a PGA.
Where he cut it out from underneath that tree.
Cut it out from underneath the tree and spun it all the way around. When he done an interview about that, he wasn't even trying to get it close to the hole. He was trying to play that to the safe side of the green, and he just happened to miss it to that side. And everyone goes like, "Oh my God!" And then they try and do that, or they try and think that that's going to be the case. But that was luck. Like it was a certain amount of skill that got you in the arena to be able to have that shot in your bag, maybe. But he was trying to put that on the one side of the fairway. If a guy completes a pass, or a guy makes a block or makes somebody miss or whatever, there's like 90% of it that's preparation and skill. Tiger's not taking that 2-iron under the tree to try and bend it around without having some level of skill. But to get it a foot from the cup, that's luck. Sometimes when you go to, like a quarterback goes to step up in the pocket, they know based on where the pass rush is coming from, where the blitz is coming from, where is the safe spot. But they also have to get lucky that the guy that they're trying to, make miss was in the wrong spot, and they just ran and didn't expect him to be there. And all of a sudden you go, oh, cool, this is open. And so like a lot of it is luck. So some of the fun part about broadcasting, explaining why something is a great play, even if it doesn't look like a great play, and why something that looks like a great play is sort of like, well, he got lucky there, and just be happy with it. That's a fun little adventure every time.
Yeah, you hear it said a lot where like he threw it where only his guy could go get it. Where sometimes, Kirk Cousins, like I'm a Vikings fan, right? And Kirk Cousins would get a lot of flack a lot of times for throwing a ball to a spot where his guy would just like end a route. Mm-hmm. Like Jalen Reagor did it to him against the Eagles, I think it was 2 years ago. And it just made Kirk look like a complete idiot. But I can guarantee you, I know Kirk's very studious, I can guarantee you he was putting that ball where he probably did 100 times before on that route, the route concept that he's supposed to be running. And he just cut the route off, and obviously made Kirk look like an idiot to the armchair quarterback, and everybody on Vikings X at the time was like, man, get Kirk out of there, but anyway, yeah, there's a lot of depth to it. And I think you can even tie it to business of somebody making a move that is calculated in a certain way, and maybe they're trying to manage risks just like a golfer would. And then they sort of get lucky and miss on one side or the other. But again, like, are you lucky or are you not, I guess, right. You put yourself there with a chance to succeed and it worked out and you keep it moving.
Yeah. And like, if you were to bid on a house and let's say, I don't know, when was the first time you actually did a new build? And did you feel like you had any business doing that new build before that? Or it was sort of like, I'm 94% sure that we can get this done exactly right, but I'm going to take a shot and do it anyway.
Yeah, our very first build, we had a guy on our team that kind of got me into it, and I signed up for it, and it failed. Well, it didn't fail. We got the person, the client, the house built. and ended up hitting the closing date after we hired Matt Buman. But I mean, financially, it went terrible. But we got the house built. The next one, I would say we were prepared, but there were still a lot of unknowns that came together well.
Yeah. So with that, you had the confidence to at least take the shot.
Right.
That like you had done enough work on remodels, stuff that was adjacent enough to it to make that jump. That Tiger, you were trying to use that same Tiger Woods. You had the 2-iron. Like you've taken that shot enough times that like with a pure 2-iron, that you've cut it around without it being around a tree. You've done it enough, but can I cut this thing around the tree?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. Let's see what happens.
I mean, our home show house in the spec house that we built, trying to drive custom builds off of, was exactly that. Like you could look at, I mean, our spec house that we just built, to tie it all together from the building world to that, would be a perfect example in the sense of we didn't really make much money on it. We ended up selling it for much less than we really wanted to, but we drove customs off it. We had it there. It was a live build that people could walk through, touch, feel, see, and make a decision that, hey, I want to go with this builder because I see the quality of how this house was built. I just don't like this particular location. I want to be in this school district, whatever, right? And if you drive custom builds off that, then that was our win. But from armchair quarterback style, you could look at it and say them building that spec house was dumb.
Yeah,
and they didn't get as much out of it as they could have.
Yeah, they sold it for way too cheap. Or they
didn't build it right. They didn't have the right amount of bedrooms, or the style they chose was wrong. Or I mean, you can criticize all the time from the outside looking in, right?
Oh, 100%. And it is like with like the sports example, business example, I think also age does this a little bit. Is if it doesn't impact my life at all, go do your thing, man. Right. Like if you want to go be a unicorn rider, go be a unicorn rider, buddy. And like any anger or jealousy or judgment towards someone didn't have anything to do with my life. The hell am I gonna care? And so like as far as like armchair quarterbacking, if you got, it's sort of those, if you got nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. But also whatever nice thing or wrong thing you're saying, it's probably wrong. So like may or may not need to say it.
100%. What was your transition? I mean, I know that we can talk about the CrossFit gym a little bit. But what was I mean, obviously you graduated in 13.
So I'm doing research.
The last 9 years. Yeah. You know, I mean, I try to do my best here. This isn't just no like part-time job, right? Blueprint Banner's legit. But what was I mean, did you immediately go open the gym? Like what was sort of that transition and like to where you're at now?
Yes.
Like, what'd that look like?
So the business that we own is Goldfinch Athletics, and it oversees, it's the parent company of CrossFit Goldfinch Sports Performance, and then our remote programming, which we call Goldfinch Speed. And where I actually got started, so the guys I mentioned before, Jack Whitver and his business partner, Jeff Jensen, they started Acceleration Iowa in 2006, 2005, somewhere in there in Urbandale. Well, they then took that and put it in 3 different locations, and they smacked a CrossFit next to it. In 2008, I actually was an athlete at their gym. Like when I was in high school, training to just be a better athlete, I went to Acceleration Iowa. Then when I went to college, I was a kinesiology major. I needed to have an internship at some kinesiology thing. And I had done a couple personal training internships, didn't like those, wanted to go do this thing that I feel like I could be okay at. So I asked Jack if I could be an intern at Acceleration Iowa. Was actually an intern under my business partner. So he's 4 years older than me. So he was this like ancient 23-year-old when I was a 20-year-old. But it was, I started as an intern in 2011 there. And then I played football from 09 to 13. So it was basically during the springs and summers when spring ball, like it's hard to have a part-time job when you're an athlete because especially football, I would say really any, like basketball, volleyball, wrestling, they're all going to be hard because during the season you can't do anything. And then there's this heavy part of the off season, spring ball, from like February to April, you're also super busy. You're like every night of the week, you're doing something till 8 o'clock. So end of spring, sometimes in the winter, sometimes in the summer, as I would go down and work there. Well, I got done. My intention academically was to go to medical school. So I was kinesiology pre-med, and I was working at a gym just because you need an internship hours. It's all well and good. I finished my undergrad in August of 2013. My final season started in August of 2013. So my choices, or at least on track to, my choices were either do bowling and basket weaving and whatever for a semester, or they're going to pay for it. You can go get a master's degree. So while I was finishing, I was like, I'm going to boost my grad school or my med school resume.
Yeah, applications into med school, obviously not easy. So you got to look really good on paper.
So I went and enrolled in the Master's of Biomedical Sciences program at Iowa State. And so I was getting my Master's in Biomedical Sciences while I was playing football my senior year. And I was like, I'm going to medical school. And it was a 1-year program that I had to break into 2 years because it was supposed to be 18 graduate credits. And if anyone knows anything about graduate credits, a 3-credit graduate course is like having a 5-credit undergrad course. It's so much more work. So 18 graduate credits would have been like 24 credits regular and play football.
That's a lot.
No chance. So I had to make it in 2 years. So after I finished my football season, I elected not to try for the NFL. So I had another academic year. What was I going to do in addition to that? Hey, Jack, you got any positions available with Acceleration Iowa? I was like, well, I don't have anything with Acceleration Iowa, but we have a CrossFit position in Waukee. I was like, okay, I'll take that while I'm in grad school. And as I was finishing up my master's, I was weighing the options between a gym and medical school. And medical school, the pros is the prestige. You know, you get to be a doctor. And you get to make a lot of money way down the road. And so if you go to medical school, the cons here, you have 4 more years of school, which are going to be intense. You would then have 3 to 5 years of residency, which would be even more intense. And in order to pay for that, you have to take some kind of student loan that's going to be crazy. The only way to pay back that student loan is to be a doctor for like 5 or 7 years to make sure you have enough money to actually pay off that loan. So let's go 4 plus 3, 7 plus another 5. You're 12 years before you can even decide if you like it. So
and there's probably also an unknown of location, right? Because like basically whatever med school you get into, I mean, you can end up anywhere in the country.
Yeah. So you're 12 years in before you can decide if you like it. And I liked working at the gym. Mm-hmm. No one ever comes into a gym and leaves in a worse mood. Right. You come into a gym, whether you had a great day or a bad day or a medium day, especially with CrossFit. And so for those that don't know, everything's group based, and it's intense, but it's
some people would call it cult-ish. I'm just kidding. That's
cults have fun together, I guess.
Right? Exactly.
But
there's an outside, like if you don't like CrossFit or whatever, I don't know. I mean, there's an outside.
Yeah,
like,
there's a negative perception of it. And also there's CrossFit HQ has its own problems, but locally, like on the ground, it's you come in with a group of people that have
people.
Yeah, people helping people, and there's other people. Everyone from a CEO of a company to a guy who again just doesn't figure in between jobs, doesn't know what he's doing. And when you put gym shorts on and you put a t-shirt on and you start doing burpees don't give a shit if you're a CEO or nobody. And so everybody, when you come in there, it's like the great equalizer. Everyone's just generally interested in each other. One of the first things that happens in a CrossFit gym, which I love, is just leave your phone in your shoes. Like you don't go to a gym with headphones on and not talk to anybody. You're forced to interact with other people. Like you have your shared common difficulty. You have something in common with somebody that, oh man, those burpees were hard.
You're there to get better.
There's sort of a natural self-selecting of if you're in there, then you would have been in there to actually enjoy. So that's the environment that you're working with. There's a bunch of people that come in who like each other, who are present in the moment, and exercise you could list study after study after study after study after study of anecdotal experience. It's good for your mental health, physical health, respiratory, cardiac. I mean, everything is better when you exercise. And so you get to live in that world. And so when I'm weighing medical school, I'm like, I kind of like what I'm doing here. And so then after enough time doing that, I got a full-time position, then took a office job to try and be an adult because, a gym's not a full-time job, right?
Well, I mean, like who takes you seriously, right? Like, I mean, you talk to I don't know how your parents and stuff felt, but I mean, you talk to the general public. Back to the medical degree. There's a lot of positions out there that you sort of just feel like you have to do certain things in order to be accepted in society in general, right? It's just like if you're not an attorney, a doctor, or a business owner or whatever, you can't just be working at a gym.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
You don't have, that's not a real job.
Like everybody has to fucking start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
But,
I have another just general philosophical life point after I finish that story, which is, so took an office job, hated it, went back and started working as the same position in Ankeny, and then talked with my business partner now was running the Acceleration Iowa. I started running the CrossFit. We then bought just our location off of Jack and Jeff, built a building, moved it over, started doing programming in for local high schools, and then rebranded everything to be one thing together with Goldfinch Athletics. But you were saying something as far as like you have to be accepted. This is one thing that so I'll talk with Iowa State students a lot, whether it's a kinesiology program. They have a football mentorship program, which is really cool. So like if you want to be an accountant, well, somebody who played football at any point prior at Iowa State who is an accountant now, they'll bring you back in and pair you with somebody. So I've done mentorship for one person. We've had several interns. And so if I'm ever interacting with a young person, and this doesn't apply just to young people, two general main life things that make your life way better. One, who fucking cares? I don't mean that in a negative way that like no one cares about you, but the world doesn't revolve around you.
people care a lot less about you than you think.
Right, which is so freeing.
Yeah.
That like, what will people think if I don't have this high status job?
Yeah.
No one's thinking about you anyway. Like
Right.
the people that love you care about you as a person. Your wife likes you for Derek.
Right.
Like doesn't Showtime Homes where, I mean, as long as you're happy, I don't care. And so like your friends, your family, they'll care about you as a person. What you do makes way less of a difference. So that's number one, is people don't care near as much as you think. And so my wife's family, we have a little site, like the Malloys. Anytime you see any one of us going like this is a little planet and it's revolving around you, and the universe is revolving around you right now. And so if you're at Hobby Lobby looking for tablecloths for a party, and someone will go, well, what if we don't? Is it okay if we get the plastic ones instead of the cloth ones? And what will people think? And then you just go,
yeah,
nobody cares.
Right.
No one's going to even pay attention to this.
Exactly.
The second thing is, why do you work at all? Right? Like, why would anyone work? It's one, generally the thought is you're going to work so you can either make an impact or to make money, one of those two or some combination of the other. Well, why do you want to make an impact? Why do you want to make money? Well, it's ultimately so that I can have a good life, that I'm happy in that life.
A fulfilling life.
A fulfilling life. Well, what's fulfilling? Bake it down all the way through.
Right.
It's whatever then answers what is a fulfilling life. For me, it's to be around my now daughter turns 1 tomorrow. Be around her, be around my family. I got 4 nieces and nephews, be around them. Be able to contribute in a way that I like sharing the knowledge that I have, whether it's about football or fitness or otherwise.
Yeah.
But the whole point of work is to build a life that you like. Why sacrifice your time on this planet for something you hate to potentially make enough money to have a life that you like, when you can just skip the middleman, do a job that you like doing? Make it, if life is ultimately, if work professionally is ultimately about doing something that you're satisfied with, to have fulfillment, why work and sacrifice your time to this other thing, to that maybe get it later when you could just do it in the first place? When I was working at a gym, my first job, I got paid $22,000 a year.
Yeah.
Making jack shit.
Yeah.
Loved it. Because I got to enjoy what I was actually doing. Now, will I do that now? Probably not, just because I value different things. Like, I want to spend time with my daughter. I want to be able to travel with her, with my wife. So there are times that I will have to do some other stuff that's not exactly aligned with that, but I'm not going to ever do something in a day that I don't want to do. Right. Because the point of life and professionally is to have a fulfilling life. Do that all the time. Don't give it, people don't care. Like, if you want to go be a rabbit feeder at the state fair year round and you love it, awesome, man. If someone doesn't like
ultimately,
it,
if you're happy, your expectations of what you're getting back from what you're doing just have to meet what it is that does make you happy. I mean, you can't. like the two sides of that, I guess, just like, because I mean, I agree 100%. I just, you can't, you can't sit there and say like everybody else has nice things and I don't. If you're a rabbit feeder and you're only making 10 grand a year, your life has to be accommodated by what it is you're earning. But if you're scaled back and you're extremely happy doing it and you're living in a tiny home or like and you're able to make ends meet and that's what makes you happy. I mean, the last or 2 guests ago, I guess I had his brother just decided to go to Alaska and live off the grid and literally had nothing for like 25 years of his life. And he's no longer with us now, but it, like for him, it wasn't about money or anything at all. It was quite the opposite. And he literally just disappeared. Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just everybody has their stuff. I just think to your point about like, depending on how much money you're making, you just can't expect to go to Cabo every other week if you're only making X amount of money. You just be okay being in your own skin and being happy with what you have.
And so not to dismiss money as a thing, because like money, if what makes you truly happy is the application of money towards something, then you will have to do things that make money.
Right.
But if you're hoping, if you don't know, and you're hoping that the application of money will make you happy,
exactly,
then sacrificing your happiness to make something to pay for something that you might not make you happy, then you're unhappy here and you're unhappy there. When at that point, again, cut out the middleman, like do something that you love doing, and then the rest will sort itself out. If you work hard, you try your best, understand there will be sacrifices here or there. But it's the world doesn't revolve around you. It's like making the decision on a separate, the outside world's perception is
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. It needs to come from within. But I mean, to that point, what were some of the things? I mean, obviously being a walk-on at Iowa State and like you talked about, I mean, being prepared when you got put in the moment, being ready, all of those things obviously translate to daily life too, and are applicable in so many different professional settings. But how did some of that preparation, like in your youth, work better for you as a gym owner? And I guess the reason why I bring that up is, again, to this point, is you decided that working in a gym made you happy, but it also wasn't just, I'm just going to go work out with my bros every day.
Right.
I mean, you aren't that type of person. Like I imagine you went into it of how can I be the most successful gym owner that I can be, so just like, what does some of that look like for you? I mean, did you have any roadblocks that you had to sort of truck through in the beginning and figuring that stuff out?
I think a lot of it is at least for me, it was, what am I good at? What am I not good at? And then how can I get myself away from the things that I'm not good at, or things that are inherently problems? So like as an example, if you're in front of a class and whether it's CrossFit class or sports performance class, there's a limited time. And this would go to a similar thing as like a sales meeting. You don't have, if you're trying to get a client signed up to build a house, you might have, like, if that meeting goes really long and the client keeps driving the conversation, like, that's awesome, great. But you're not going to be there for 15 hours. Like, there is a limited amount of time that you can have. There's even an even smaller amount of time in that you have attention. And so in a class, you have to not only provide an environment that is welcoming and receptive to everybody, that everyone feels like they're involved in, but also prepare them physically to not be injured by the thing, and then get the stimulus, whatever it's a cardio day or a weightlifting day or whatever, and make sure that their body is prepared for it, making sure their technique is prepared for it, making sure that the environment is such that they want to be there. There's a delicate balance to do that right. And you get some education on that, and CrossFit has some good classes that you can take, but you also have to apply that and practice it. But things that then take time are so if, let's say we're doing a workout that involves a barbell and a pull-up bar, something like that. And that's the two things we need to do. And if I'm going to do a barbell and a pull-up bar, I need to make sure that the technique is at least reasonably clean for everybody before I put them on a barbell, so I don't hurt anybody and we're not overloading them. One of the knocks on CrossFit is that people get hurt a lot. Well, you get hurt a lot if it's negligent. If the coach doesn't do it, or coach or the gym doesn't do a good job of preparing you and preventing you from doing something stupid, then you do something stupid. It's our fault.
Let's go max out on power cleans. Sir, I've never power cleaned before.
Let's not do that. Let me see you do one with a PVC pipe before we do that. So if that's the case, I should probably get a PVC pipe out. Well, getting a group of these people who are interested in each other, having conversations with each other and preparing, I need to then have them go grab a PVC and come back. If PVCs are strewn randomly about the gym and we have to spend 3 minutes finding them, that's 3 minutes that I don't have to actually run the class. So to bring back like a lot of the sports stuff, one of the great things that sports teaches you is, especially I would say football and basketball to me are baseball to now some extent, is when you're watching film on yourself, film don't lie. Like if you think you made a good block and you watch it on film and you barely made contact with the guy and he's the one that made the tackle, your feelings about what you thought you did don't matter.
The universe said otherwise.
The universe said otherwise.
Yeah.
And so you have to be very honest with yourself with no facade of, am I good at this? Am I bad at this? What's going on? And you're not emotional about it. You're like, early on, and obviously there is a delicate balance. You can't say like, you're a piece of shit who's lazy.
Yeah.
That's one thing. But if you're getting coaching points of being like, yeah, you need to have a way stronger right hand here. If you don't have if your right hand and your right hip don't come to this block, you're going to get beaten every time. Got it. Cool. Mental note. Stick that in there. And you're not mad or sad or upset that bad thing happened. You can go, okay, noted. I'll change that for next time.
Constructively, yeah.
So then when you go to be a business owner, you have to then take that same attitude towards stuff. And so like nothing will ever be perfect, but you can go, what did I do well? What did I do poorly? What can I control? So in this PVC example, I'm not going to have people go grab a medicine ball and a kettlebell and a PVC, because then that's a bunch of different things out that I don't need. And we've just wasted 7 minutes just going to grab stuff. And so early on, I go,
facilitation of that.
What's the best way to prepare for this squat clean? What's to do a medicine ball clean? That's the best. It's the easiest technique to teach. But now we have to go get these medicine balls. Well, is it really important to go get the medicine balls, or would it be better I waste time doing this, so I need to not waste time doing that? So you can apply that like sort of watching film of yourself do a thing and then go, man, that was bad. And then not feeling bad that was bad, whether that's a business owner or a coach or whatever, and not feeling like bad that something went not as well as you thought. And then you can learn from that and advance it forward.
I mean, coming from football, then just being in an extremely critical world, because you have to be the best version of yourself that you can be. I mean, it's just fair to say then, you're sort of thick-skinned in the professional world. You're okay looking in the mirror and just saying, hey, like I wasn't my best in that moment. I'm not going to get down about it. Or if somebody gives me criticism back and just says, man, it felt like we were wandering around the gym grabbing shit half the workout, you're going to say, okay, mirror check. What can I do to be better then and be more efficient, right?
Oh, 100%.
I think there's a lot of that. I'm just by nature like very self-critical. As soon as we're done with this podcast, I'll think about it probably and think about like ways that I like maybe things I should have brought up or could have brought up. I mean, always, like almost to a fault, right? Just because I'm constantly like wanting to improve. But I think just anybody, that's maybe hearing this though, and I think that's awesome. Obviously, coming from a walk-on that had success at Iowa State, obviously successful professionally, and a lot of those traits and everything that got ingrained in you, you're carrying through today. I just think it's extremely important to want to improve and just to accept criticism when it's given to you in a constructive manner.
Yeah, actually, Matt, not to only use Iowa State things. So Iowa State, again, dating when this podcast is, they just beat Cincinnati, and there's their first win. They lost their previous two, and they got their asses kicked against Kansas. And Iowa State head coach Matt Campbell, in his press conference, somebody asked him about like, how is your team responding to this? And one of his quotes, which I just like, I want to get this on my, like, I want to put this in a sticky note in my mirror. Never waste a good failure is his quote that he said. And that is such a great attitude for it, because like, of course you can feel bad that happened. Like if back to another business concept, like I had a sales job, and the sales jobs for me, in order for me to really want to do it, I have to like really love the product or whatever thing I'm selling.
Same. You got to really have confidence.
And if I don't have confidence in it, I have way too much like, F this, I don't care. Like if there's the company that I was with, I had got an order, and I think this company, a normal order size is somewhere like $500 to $1,000, and they do that, once a month, and you have 50 clients that do that. And that's sort of the thing. I had gotten this one account to buy like $3,800 worth of stuff. Big win for me.
Yeah.
Fulfillment then shipped an entire box wrong, and it's these little things. It was nutraceuticals, and so it's like multivitamins that you're taking. Well, they shipped the wrong things, a whole box worth, which is like $2,100 worth of wrong stuff. And I'm like, I busted my ass for like 5 months to get this to happen. So that aside, the like looking at what can I do with myself? I screwed up. I went to a sales meeting. I said the wrong thing. I had the wrong front desk person. I had their name written down wrong, and I thought it was Brittany. It was actually Carol.
Right.
I said Brittany, and she goes, oh, "It's Carol." I was like, "Damn it!" Like, and you can feel mad that like you screwed that up. You're working on just getting in the door with this doctor, and you said the wrong thing, and you can feel bad about it. But then you take the emotion out of it and go, "Okay, well, what did I do wrong in this situation? How do I make sure that I don't do that in the future? So never waste a good failure." At that point, I'm going to get really good at names, and I'm always going to be 100% sure that I can remember exactly who's there. If I need to have this in a sales context, everybody that I'm going to come across in this office, in this whatever, I know exactly what it is. And I'm going to do that because I felt shitty when I messed it up the first time. But then you take the shitty feeling out of it and go, what can I do to make it better? And don't feel bad that you screwed it up once you are in make it better mode.
That's one of those, everything revolving around you moments too, because it's easy when you're in sales, and a lot of times salespeople in general get compared to the top performer or whatever. And, if you're starting your own business, you're always looking at that person that is successful, and you think, I bet that person never forgot somebody's name. Guess what? They probably did.
They 100% did.
So, I mean, just to tie that back, right? Like just take that experience, get better, and move on from it, right?
Yeah.
So,
and another thing, just as a comparison trap, you're mentioning like looking at the best in your industry. Like, I saw a video. I was in a small business coaching program, and they showed a video of this. It's a food delivery service that's in India, and it is amazing. I don't remember the actual name of it, but they deliver 1 million meals a week, and they have 4 screw ups on average per month. So they're doing 4 million orders, and they mess up 4 of them. Wild. And they showed this video, and then you think about all the screw ups that you have in your business, and you go, these guys can deliver 1 million meals a week and screw up 4 times. And then I just did a quick little Google. That business was founded in 1890. They've had 134 years to figure that process out. Right. Now, granted, I'm going to try and make that not so I don't have to spend 134 years to get my process right. But also, I've owned my business since 2018. Right. I've been in business for 6 years, 7 years, whatever that math ends up being. They've been in business for, what is that? 50 times, 40 times longer than I have. Yeah. So like as a comparison trap is you have no idea what the other side has had to go through or how long the opportunities or the challenges they've had to overcome to get to where they are. And like usually if you look at and you go, no, like in my arena, like you go, oh man, Lifetime Fitness, they're just hand over foot money. They do a really good job. They service their people really well. I imagine a couple things. One, I don't know when that was founded. I'm guessing at the earliest, like 1980. Yeah. They also probably had millions of investment to actually then invest in people that can do the job really well, or this other thing. And if you have millions of investment and early on, the stress involved with making millions pay off over the course of 5 or 10 or 20 years, that 15 years was probably hell for that person or that team and their families. Mm-hmm. Well, now it looks great. But like comparing yourself now to them now is unfair to both of you because they were where you were a while ago and they just went about it a little different way.
That's why I love the Blueprint banter thought and concept, man. Like the fact that we're just sitting here having these conversations was literally based on that premise. Is I think that oftentimes people take the easy button way of looking at somebody that's successful and just saying, man, what sure would be nice to be them. But they have no concept or perspective of what it took to get there. Mm-hmm. Matt Bowman, who's a mutual friend of ours, had him on, and just hearing their story of starting Perfect Cut and everything. Like everybody has a story, mm-hmm. and there's just perspective that needs to be had in any given situation. So, I mean, I agree with that 1,000%, man. It's big time. I mean, the blueprint of how anybody gets to where they're at is that's their story, and yours doesn't have to mimic it. It doesn't have to look, it can look different. It doesn't have to look different. Mm-hmm. It's just the beauty of being fucking human, So, yeah. But, I appreciate you coming on. We probably got to get you going. I think at the end of the day, your story is inspiring to the point of, like I think it's amazing that you took like the lessons that you learned into a professional way that you did. I mean, you're extremely articulate, obviously brilliant. I think were you all first team all academic 2013?
4 years.
For all 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, you have a brain, right? And the
Somewhat,
fact that
still. Yeah.
the fact that you took just brute strength, learning football, all the knuckle dragger stuff, but also mixed it with intelligence, created your own business, and the relationships that obviously helped you get started, and you fostered those, took care of them. And I think it's a cool story, man.
Cool,
So
thanks.
I'm glad you came
fun.
on.
This was good. Yeah, I just need to steal some ideas from your trim carpenter.
Yeah. No, it's all good. It always goes too fast. We'll have to get you on for another episode.
For sure. When we can spend another 6 hours doing it.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thanks, man.